just arrived at the office and it's going to be some sort of shooting day. I say some sort of shooting day because I'm not really sure what I'm going to be shooting about yet. There's two options. I had something planned last night, but then this morning another plan's come to me, so we shall see. Anyway, first thing to do is get out of the car, get upstairs, get some coffee on, get sorted and get into the day. So we all have our favourite video editors, but I'm going to tell you in this video why I use Premiere Pro. Welcome back, guys. I have been very remiss recently in reminding you to do all the good stuff that the channel needs. If you can like, comment, subscribe, share, turn on the bell to make sure that you get notifications so that when I upload another video, you are one of the first to know. Isn't it odd how we all grow used to our favourite workflow, apps, hardware and software? And that's certainly true when it comes to audio and video editing software. I'll talk about audio software another time, Adobe Audition. Today is all about video editing software and why I have grown to love and use Premiere Pro. I've kind of grown up with the Creative Cloud suite of apps, and I guess I've been using them now for somewhere over 10 years. And why would I change? They don't disappoint. With my design background, I first started off using the Creative Cloud suites for, well, InDesign really. That led to Illustrator and then of course Photoshop. Photoshop was open virtually every day. Now, once you use Photoshop in particular, it kind of opens the door for the rest of the Creative Cloud apps. They're all really, really similar, and certainly the similarities between Photoshop and Premiere Pro are really, really apparent with blending modes and adjustment layers. If you know one, you've kind of got a good foot in the door with the other as well. Of course, there's a saying that goes along the lines of the best camera you've got is the one you've got in your hand. Well, the same is true with video editing software. The best software, the one that's going to do the best job for you, is the one you're most comfortable with. I've been carrying out a lot of interviews recently for my Minus 16 podcast, and I generally talk to creators either on the interview itself or after the interview, and we get talking about Final Cut and Premiere, and it's kind of 50-50. And the people that are using and happy with Final Cut would not switch, and it's the same kind with the Premiere Pro users. There's a lot of creators I watch online, and they're absolutely loyal to Premiere Pro. And in this video, I just want to try and look at why that is, why we won't change, why I won't change. I've thought about it. A really close friend of mine suggested that I should change to Final Cut. He reckons that it's even quicker on Macs than Premiere Pro, but with the switch to Apple Silicon, I haven't noticed things being that slow. And now, all of the Adobe apps, they've got rid of the Rosetta wall that we had to go through before. They're now natively created for Apple Silicon, and they're working really, really well. But what is it that keeps me stuck with Adobe? Familiarity, without doubt, is a huge part of why I stay with Adobe. Kind of, as I said, you get to know one app and you know your way around the others. You know when you right click what you're going to see in the menus. It's all very, very samey and familiar. And of course, the real test comes when things go wrong. When things are going fine and smoothly, anybody can use a bit of software. I could probably jump into Final Cut today and make something of it. You could load up a timeline, put some audio, cut and chop. That's the easy bits. When things go wrong. Now, last week, I had two examples of problems. The podcast with Ian Zelbo, there's a link to that up here. I had to cut out a load of bits and pieces we were talking about during the interview that we couldn't broadcast. That brought with it its own set of problems, editing the audio to the video in Premiere Pro. And then there's a video that I put out later in the week as well, which was a vlog style about the ecosystem and inside the Apple walled garden that I sit in. And again, because of the amount of plugins and because of all the rendering that was going on, it posed some problems. But I knew where to look. I knew where the problems were. I knew what to do. Using a trite phrase, I knew how to get under the hood and really find out where these problems were laying so that I could sort them out and get the video rendered and exported ready for use. Apart from the familiarity of using Adobe, it's also how well they integrate and talk to one another. If I'm working on some audio in Premiere Pro, it's super simple. You just right click and then you go edit in Adobe Audition and you just export the audio seamlessly without having to leave Premiere. It appears open in Adobe Audition and you can do a full raft of changes in there. You can add compressors, noise reduction, you name it, you can do it in there. You can de-breath, do all of the heavy lifting work for the audio in Adobe Audition, and then just hit Command S. And as soon as you save it, the moment you get back to Premiere Pro, the alterations are done, sitting there waiting for you. That integration, not only with Adobe Audition, but just through the whole range is amazing as well. If you save a photo down in Photoshop, for instance, it will go into your preferred library. In my case, I've got a library just called Downloads. The moment I open up Photoshop, having, say, bought an image from Adobe Stock, it's there waiting for me. And again, with Modus in After Effects, the same thing applies. As soon as you make those changes and save it down, you can save it into the essential graphics panel. The minute you go back to Premiere Pro, it's there waiting for you. Integration makes life so simple with Adobe. It's almost like an ecosystem for Adobe rather than an ecosystem for Apple. Maybe I just like the ecosystems, who knows? Also, there's a couple of really good features that I love inside of Audition and Premiere Pro, and one of those is the Essential Sound panel. It makes things so simple. Most of the time, if my audio is decent, I will only bother editing the audio in Premiere Pro. It's only if there's problems I'll export it and bounce it to Audition. But inside of Premiere Pro, you have got what's called the Essential Sound panel, and in there, well, it's kind of, think of it like having an audio editor sitting on your shoulder or sitting with you. All the basic things you need there, and not so basic actually, are just sitting there in simple drop-down menus. You can sort out reverb, you can get rid of hums, you can do all sorts of things in there. You can add some clarity just at the push of a button. It's all sitting there for you in a really simple panel under the Essential Sounds panel. If you haven't looked at it yourself, do. It is such a great feature. Stretching audio again, super simple to do, so you can make the audio to any length that you want to match the time clip of the video that you've got above it. Brilliant. I just love the way that Premiere makes it so simple. And also on the master track, you can add in effects right at the last stage before bouncing out. So I add in a multi-band compressor, I'll add in a loudness meter to check that I'm meeting the loudness standard that I want. All of that is done on the very last channel, the very last strip of audio, before I begin to render and export. Another reason why I love the Adobe product so much. And it's the knowledge that I've learned over the years. As I mentioned a moment ago, when things go wrong, it's that knowledge bank that I can call on. I'll know where to look to, say, undo effects. I'll know where to look to if there's an issue with the audio. I'll know where to look if there's any kind of problem with the rendering. Just through years spent with Premiere and with Adobe products, you just build up a real knowledge database. And it's true what your mum probably said to you when you're a kid, it's when things go wrong, you need to learn from mistakes. Keyboard shortcuts are another reason that I love the Adobe products. And if you don't like the way that it's set up out of the box, you can also, it's super simple to do that. And then if you want, you can have the same hotkey set up in, say, Premiere and Audition, so that you know if you want to make the same edit in each of the apps, you've got the same hotkey set up on the keyboard. It just makes working that much quicker. And it's that knowledge bank that you build up over the years, that wealth of knowledge that you can draw on, like I had to last week. That's what makes it invaluable. Sure, I probably could go and learn Final Cut if I really needed to, but the time spent relearning, I could be actually working, and I just need to equate, is it worth it? I said earlier on that yes, I'm sure Final Cut is slightly better optimized for Apple Silicon, but since I've got the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I really haven't noticed a problem. Adobe have really come along and upped their game and made sure that they are now working perfectly with Apple Silicon. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. So the chances of me switching over to Final Cut or even Logic, pretty slim, I've got to say. And look, I'm not trying to say that Final Cut or Logic aren't great editors. Of course they are. And if you've grown up with those, like I've grown up with Adobe, you'll have your foot in that camp. You would be loath to change as well. And it is true to say it's whatever you've spent time with, whatever you've invested time in. And it would take a hell of a lot now to make me switch over to Final Cut and Logic, just because I've got so much knowledge inside of Adobe, and they're doing a good job for me. I like the sound, I like the videos, Photoshop, all of the thumbnails for these videos are all made in Photoshop, and because I know my way around Photoshop, I can cut out, I can add hue and sat layers, you name it, I can do it in the blink of an eye. Why would I want to go and get another bit of photo editing software when I probably know the best anyway, and I've got Photoshop sitting there with me? Yes, I know I've spent a lot of money with Adobe over the years on subscriptions, but when you think of all the apps that I've got, all the apps that I use every day virtually, and that's cost me around about £50 sterling a month. I don't think that's bad money, and they're always the latest versions. Of course, Final Cut, I could go and buy one off and get the updates, but for £50 for all of the apps that I use, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, Audition, Premiere Pro, After Effects, 50 quid for that lot? I don't think it's bad money, do you? Whether it's DaVinci, whether it's Final Cut, or of course Premiere, all video editors, in essence, do the same things. All they do is cut up video and audio ready for you to put together in a timeline and export out to a video. That's what they're about. All I would say to you is invest time. Spend time with your software, get to know it. And when things go wrong, try not to scream, shout and holler. Actually think of it as a good thing, because when you come out of it the other side, you will be better in your craft. You'll understand your software better, and the next time that problem comes along, you'll be able to solve it by yourself quickly. And that's the great reward. So whatever bit of software you're using, try to learn to fall in love with it, embrace it, and just use as much of it as you can. Find out all the resources that are there. They're all powerful, and just use them to your advantage to turn out great videos. I'd really like to know, have you learnt one particular piece of software and switched? Were you a Premiere user and you switched to Final Cut? And if so, why? And how did you find it? Did it take you long to become proficient and quick in Final Cut? And the other way around, did you go from Final Cut over to Premiere, or maybe even DaVinci? Just let me know. I'd love to know if you have switched and how hard you found it, or if you found it beneficial. Get involved, and don't forget also to turn on those notifications to make sure that when I do upload another video, you're one of the very first to know. And talking about another video, why don't you hang around for just a few more moments, because at the end of this one, I'm going to leave a link where you can find that Apple ecosystem video that I spoke about earlier on, where things went wrong. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.